Hello everyone. So today onwards we'll be doing social and political life part 2. It is a textbook for social science class 7. So these are the units we have in this book. Today we'll be starting with chapter 1, which is equality in Indian democracy. Okay. Yep. So let's see what does it say. Okay. Wait, let me see. So let's see what are we going to study in chapter 1. The unit introduces the learner to the critical role of equality in India with specific reference equality in democracy with specific reference to India. The constitution the constitution of India guarantees equality to all citizens. Despite this, the daily lives of people in India are far from equal. Earlier discussions on equality in civics textbooks most often reiterated certain provisions of the constitutions without adequately considering the reality of these in people's life. This unit adopts a different approach. It discusses the need for equality through highlighting the inequalities that continue to be practiced and experienced by various communities. The first chapter introduces the learner to Kanta, Om Prakash Valmiki, and Ansaris, all of whom experience inequality in different ways. It is through their experiences that we introduce the concept of dignity. The government's role in passing laws and instituting policies is discussed to show that commitment to the alleviation of existing inequalities is a major part of the work that government undertake. The chapter also briefly introduces an issue of inequality in the United States of America to highlight that this is a global phenomenon. So it is not only going to tell in reference to in India inequality, but also that it is widely seen across the world and even in United States. Government we got talk we are going to talk about the government's role and its commitment. We're talking about policies, and yeah, the the second chapter of this unit is chapter 10 of this book. It ties together the main areas of equality raised through the text. And significant portion of this last chapter is devoted to discussing people's contribution to fight for equality. This is achieved through focusing on one social movement as well as highlighting creative ways through which people express the demands for equality in the form of writings, songs, and poems. Both chapters aim to help the learner understand that equality and democracy are dynamic and not static concepts. मतलब not static मतलब it changes. It has a very evolving थिंक दैट कि एक के उससे देखेंगे तो ऐसा होगा लेकिन ज़रूरी नहीं कि वैसे हो, दूसरी तरफ से देखें तो कुछ और भी उसमें एंगल हो सकते हैं, वो मतलब होता है. This dynamics is reflected in the government's passing of new laws and programs and in people's movement around various social and economic issues. Kanta, Om Prakash, and the Ansaris, the Tava Matsya Sangh all have diverse local equivalents. Local situations should be used as a practical reference to make the discussion on underlying concepts more relevant and appropriate. A discussion on equality in the classroom requires empathy as well as firm commitment on the teacher's part to ensuring that the dignity of all learners be respected. On equality, India is a democracy. In the class 6 book, we looked at the key elements of democratic government. We looked at the key elements of democracy. These include people's participation, resolution of conflict, equality, and justice. Equality is a key feature of democracy and influences all aspects of its functioning. In this chapter, you will read more about equality, what it is, and why it is important in the democracy, and whether or not everyone's equal in India. Let's begin by looking at Kanta's story. On election day, Kanta and her friends Sujata are waiting to cast their votes. Isn't it good, Suja, that we all can vote as citizens of our country? Even Jain Saab is standing in the line with us. Yes, then here. We will see you later, Kanta. Yes, Namaste Sahib. Okay, so now we are here. Gudia has been Gudia has been running fever and I have to take her to the hospital. Um, but I will have to finish the work at Sahib's house first and ask for some advice. Go on, go on, Kanta. It's your turn now. I will vote for the candidate who has promised to bring pipe water to our area. Here, have some of this, you'll feel better. And when I get back in the evening, we'll go to the hospital, okay? Then it's no wonder that Gudia falls ill often. The basti is never cleaned. So I think this is the election time, and you can see all the people standing here in a line. Here is Manjeet Kaur, who's a teacher. Then there's a trader, then student. Then we can see domestic worker, Kanta Devi, who's here. And then we can see Sujata Kumari, she's standing here. She's also a domestic worker. Then we can see an artisan, we can see housewife, we can see consultant, we can see a government officer, we can see a media person and an unemployed person, and finally we can also see an industrialist. So yeah, make sure to do the corners properly. Here's your advance, Kanta, but don't make it a habit of it. No madam, that evening. Just a few more minutes, Betty. Jain madam and Jain sahab may stand in line to vote, but they never have to do it when their children are sick. Do you think that Kanta has enough reasons to doubt whether she really is equal? List three reasons from the story above that make her feel like this. Okay, so now we'll discuss about that. So let's first start here. Equal right to vote. Let's see properly. The story above begins with Kanta standing in line to cast a vote. Look again at the various people who are standing in line with her. Kanta recognizes her employer, Ashok Jain, and Chote Lal, her neighbor. In a democratic country like India, all adults, irrespective of what religion they belong to, how much education they have had, what caste they are, or whether they are rich or poor, are allowed to vote. This, as you have already read in Class 6 textbook, is called universal adult franchise and is an essential aspect of all democracies. The idea of universal adult franchise is based on the idea of equality because it states that every adult in a country, irrespective of their wealth and the communities she or he belongs to, has one vote. So they, if we're talking about the adult franchise, we're talking about adult universal adult franchise, which means that Now everyone in a country has a right to vote, irrespective of where they come from, where they belong, and what education they have, and what religion, whether they are rich or poor. They all have the right to vote, and each vote is counted as one. um, it is because equality, it states that every country, irrespective of anything, that one person has one vote. Kanta is excited to vote and happy that she is equal to all the other, because of them has one vote, and happy that she is equal to all of the others because each of them has one vote. But as the day goes on, Kanta becomes less certain about the equalities really mean. What this equality really means, okay? What is that makes Kanta unsure? Let's take a look at her day in her life. She lives in a slum, has a drain behind her house. Her daughter is sick, and she cannot take a day off from her work because she needs to borrow money from her employer to take her child to the doctor. Her job is a domestic help. Um, tries tires her out Tires her out, and finally she ends her day by again standing in a line, this time in front of a government hospital. Is unlike the one in the morning because most of the people standing in it are poor. Okay, so what happens that if in the morning we've seen a scene where people are standing in a line to cast their vote, and this standing in a line, whether you are an artisan, whether you are a doctor, whether you are a teacher, whether you are a domestic worker, but everybody has to stand in a line to cast their vote, irrespective of what profession you come from, or how much income or education you have, whether you are rich or poor. But this same is not seen elsewhere. For example, the Kanta, she's a domestic worker, and though she might also stand in a line along with others to cast their vote, but when it comes to other public services, for example a government hospital where we've seen her standing in a line, there she notices that all the people who are standing in a line are poor, and there you don't see anyone like her, um Jain Sahib, or the people who where she works. They don't see, they are not seen standing there, and rather it is all the poor people who are standing in that line in the government hospital. And she lives in a slum, and there's a drain behind her house. Okay, and whenever her daughter is sick, she cannot take a day off from her work because she needs to borrow money. She does not have security of work security, she does not have job security, and that is why it makes her think that whether really are we all equal, or it is only in few aspects of life we are equal and not really equal in other you know things in life. For example, a comparison between while casting a vote and while standing in a hospital to get treated. So we are here. Other kinds of equality. Kanta is one of the many people who live in a democratic India and who have the right to vote, but whose daily living and working conditions are far from equal. Apart from being poor, people in India experience inequality in different ways. Let us see what this means by reading the two stories given below. Each of these is based on real incidents in people's life and reflects the different kinds of inequalities that exist in India. One of the more common forms of inequality in India is the caste system. Okay, if you live in rural India, your caste identity is something that you probably learned or experienced very young. If you live in urban India, some of you might think that people no longer believe in caste, but just look at these matrimonials shown from a leading English newspaper, and you'll see how important the issue of caste continues to be in the minds of highly educated urban Indians. So, we might have seen that when we compare urban area and rural area, we can see that of course it's very common in villages, whereas in urban areas we don't see people talking about caste and other things associated to it. But if we see the ads which are, especially in the matrimonial ads, then see w- how it's written. Alliance invited for 32 mms, 5 4 fair beautiful girl. Okay. Working in IT company Mumbai, from BA MBA boy working in Mumbai abroad, from IT industry, caste no bar, SC ST excuse, send, BHP must. Okay. Pro- Professor qualified beautiful tall girl for Gupta boy 28, tall girl for, it should be, okay, but fine. It should be otherwise for FOR. For Gupta, 28 years of age, who is 6 feet, CA, working in multinational company, Texas, USA, and earns dollar 80,000. Then we see an ad which says Tamil Brahmin Iyer groom, 1981 born, Naithru Kashyapa Gotram, Swati star, 180 centimeters tall, fair. Circle the reference to caste in the matrimonial advertisements given above. So we can see how it's clearly mentioned that caste is no bar. You can belong to any caste, but not SCST. And then we are here talking about a Gupta boy. Here we're talking about a Brahmin. So that's how it's clearly mentioned. Even in modern India, people are so much concerned that which caste a particular person belongs to, especially when it comes to marriages. Now let us read a story about the experiences of a Dalit child attending school. you know you've already read about the Dalits in class 6 books. Dalit is a term about the so-called lower caste uses to address themselves. Dalit means broken, and by using this word, lower caste are pointing to how they were and continue to be seriously discriminated against. So this is a Dalit is a term which is often used by people. We've already studied about the story of Bhimram Ambedkar in class 6 book, and Dalit, the term means broken, and it shows that how discriminated you were because just of your caste. So now we'll study about the story of Om Prakash, is a famous Dalit writer. In his autobiography, Jutan means half eaten. Matlab somebody's eaten an apple and kept it there. Somebody's eaten a toffee. Jutan matlab it's somebody's already used it or matlab eaten it. It's half eaten. He writes, I had to sit away from others in the class, and that too on the floor. The mat ran out before reaching the spot I sat on. Sometimes I would have to sit way behind everybody right near the door. Sometimes they would beat me without any reason. When he was in class 6, the headmaster asked Om Prakash to sweep the class and the playground. He writes, the playground was way larger than my small physique could handle, and in cleaning it, my back began to ache. My face was covered with dust. Dust had gone inside my mouth. The other children in my class were studying and I was sweeping. Headmaster was sitting in his room and watching me. I was not even allowed to get a drink of water. I swept the whole day, from doors to windows, from the doors and the windows of the classrooms. The eyes of the teachers and the boys saw this spectacle. Om Prakash was made to sweep the school and the playground for the next couple of days, and this only came to end when his father, who happening to be passing by, saw his son sweeping. He confronted the teacher and then, walking away from the school holding Om Prakash's hand, he said loudly to all of them, you are a teacher, so I'm leaving you now. But remember, this master, he will study right here in the school, and not just him, but there will be more coming after him. The second okay, so this is so this what happens. So we can see this also here. There's a boy, and it's Jutan means half eaten. Translated from the Hindi, not from the From the Hindi, I cannot read. Okay, Arun Prabha Mukherjee. So it's been a translated cover of Om Prakash Valmiki's Jutan, which talks about his experiences of growing up as a Dalit boy. Why do you think Om Prakash Valmiki was being treated unequally by his teacher and his classmates? Imagine yourself as a Om Prakash and write four lines about how you would feel if you were in the same situation as him. Just imagine that all the children in the class are studying and doing the work they're supposed to do, and you're one of but except you who's made to sweep not only the floor but also you made to clean doors, windows, and the whole playground. And just remember, after doing all this work, you have to again come the next day, wearing uniform. You are of the same age, and but you are only made to do it. Just, it's not that everybody is doing it for fun or for an activity. It is only you who's being made done. So just imagine the psychological impact that must be there on the children, or sorry, on Om Prakash Valmiki as a Dalit, as a kid, just because he was Dalit. Okay, so the second story is based on the incident that took place in one of the large India's largest cities, and is common practice in most parts of the country. It is a story about Mr. and Mrs. Ansari who were looking to rent an apartment. They had the money and an apartment in the city, and sorry, they had the money, and so paying the rent was no problem. They went on to property dealer for help to find a place. The dealer informed them that he knew about quite a few apartments that were available for rent. They visited the first apartment, and the Ansaris liked it very much and decided to take it. However, when the landlady found out their names, she made an excuse about how she could not rent the house to someone who ate meat because the building did not have any non vegetarian residents. Both the Ansaris and the property dealer were surprised to hear this because they could smell fish being cooked in the neighbor's house. The same excuse was repeated in the second and the third apartment. Finally, the property dealer told them that they might want to change their names and call themselves Mr. and Mrs. Kumar. The Ansaris were reluctant to do this and decided to look some more. In the end, it took a whole month of looking at apartments before they found a landlady who was willing to give them a place. So, firstly, we talked about the story of Om Prakash, and now we're again talking about the story of Ansaris. Okay, who are who's a couple who's looking for an apartment in India's largest cities. One of the India's largest cities. It's the name is not mentioned, and wherever they go, they almost it's they liked the house, but they're not given because at the end moment when the deal is going to take place, and they ask, "What is your name?" Then they said that our name is Dash Ansari. Then this is, oh my god, then they give an excuse that you people eat meat and meat is not allowed. Whereas in one instance, so you could actually smell fish from a neighbor's house, and it was just an excuse which was given by that particular apartment owner. Similarly, they had to face the similar situation in many other apartments they were looking at. Finally, so the dealer said that you should change your name to Mr. and Mrs. Kumar, because they started noticing that maybe it's because of the not maybe that, but yes, it's because of the name, because they are Muslim. So finally, after 1 month of hunting, they got a house, from a lady who was willing instead, even after knowing that they are from a Muslim community. Why do you think the Ansaris were being treated unequally? Why would you do if you were in position and could not find a place to live? Because some people did not want to live next to you because of the religion you practice. So sometimes it happens, that mm, sometimes we are also looked down because we practice certain religion, and that is completely wrong. The main aim of every religion is peace, and to give you a balance in life, not so that you are made or you make somebody small, or you make them feel bad just because they belong to a certain religion. Then we are talking about recognizing dignity. You've understood by now that the caste we are born into, the religion we practice, the caste we are born into, the religion we practice, and the class background we come from, whether we are male or female. These are often the things that determine why some are treated unequally. Om Prakash Valmiki and the Ansaris are being treated unequally on the basis of difference of caste and religion. When persons are treated unequally, their dignity is violated. The dignity of both Om Prakash Valmiki and the Ansaris was violated because of the way in which they were treated. By picking on him and making him sweep the school because of his caste, Om Prakash Valmiki's schoolmate and his teachers hurt his dignity badly and made him feel as if he was less than equal to all the other students in the school. Being a child, Om Prakash Valmiki could do very little about the situation that he was in. It was his father who, on seeing his son sweep, felt angry by this unequal treatment and confronted the teacher. The Ansari's dignity was also hurt when persons refused to lease their apartments to them. However, when the property dealer suggested that they change their name, it was their dignity or self respect that made them refuse this suggestion. Om Prakash and the Ansaris do not deserve to be treated like this. They deserve the same respect and dignity as everyone else. So here we are talking about that just because somebody belongs to, different caste than yours, it doesn't mean that it doesn't allow us to treat them as to make them feel as low or somebody who is inferior to us. We're not supposed to do that. Every person is unique, and they deserve respect irrespective of what caste, religion, class, background they are born into. Okay, then here, equality in Indian democracy. Where is it? Let So we are here. Okay. Hmm. If you were born If you were one of the Ansaris, how would you have responded to the suggestion to change your name? Somebody, just imagine if all your life you've had your name as Ravi or Radha or Faiz or Alvira or maybe just anything. Just imagine yourself that how would you like if somebody says that change your name because I don't like it. Arey, that's not how it is. You don't like it, or just because you don't like it, why should I change my name? I'm not calling you by that name, right? And that is my dignity. That is about my self respect. So you should stand by it. Can you think of an incident in your life in which your dignity was violated? How do you, how did this make you feel? So, has it ever been you in your life that incident has occurred where you felt that your dignity is being destroyed, or you are being made to feel small as comparative to others? See, in 1975 film Diwar, a boy who works as a shoe shine refuses to pick up a coin thrown at him. He feels that there is no dignity in the there. He feels that there is dignity in the work that he does, and insists that his fee be given respectfully. So there was a movie um, in 1975 with the name called Diwar, where you can see that after this boy cleans this person's shoes, he throws the money. So what happens is that he says that my work is equally of dignity and I deserve to be treated respectfully, and it is better if you give me my payment on my hand. So this is how, according to this child, even he feels that his job is of dignity and he is the deserves to be treated nicely and as good as others. Okay, so now we'll do here.